The next crisis won't just hit global economy. It will hit jobs, governments, and the future your kids grow into.
I'm sitting at dinner explaining what's happening to my kids. I'm like, hey, this is happening, so we have to be more cautious.
This is Donald Klip, an American investor and founder behind over $1 billion in deals. He believes the system most people still rely on is already starting to crack.
And what we see on the news is probably 10% of what's happening. Last week there was a 92,000 drop in employment in the US. There's not going to be a human farmer in 3 years.
This shift will create new opportunities, but only for those who understand what's coming.
You don't need to go to university to earn income. The world is going to
Donald breaks down what the AI race means for the US-China rivalry.
The US does not have enough energy to build data centers. So where do they have to build them? In the Middle East. You start blowing those up, then you lose the AI war to China.
Which countries will suffer the most from what's happening right now?
Any country that relies on trade is a problem.
And the most important question, what we need to do right now to prepare for the future before it's too late?
People are not ready for that.
I'm Max Chernov. I host raw conversations about wealth, global mobility, and mastery. Okay, let's start with the most recent one. So we have Dubai was like a Singapore in the Middle East.
Yeah.
Now Dubai is struggling. Maybe not Dubai is struggling, but the reputation might struggle. Even if Dubai physically is fine, and I'm sure Dubai will be fine, but the reputation and the belief of people who invest in Dubai, who come to Dubai, who are thinking,
I can tell you firsthand what's happening. So one, Dubai will never be the same again. Like once you have a war, things aren't going to see. It may, Dubai was a place that, what attracted people in the beginning was you don't pay taxes. Then it attracted industry there because of low regulation, crypto and bank regulations, all kinds of things. And it attracted a lot of people that got priced out of living in Singapore because it was too expensive to go there. And they've done such a good job. Like, it's incredible. One thing I will point out is that the property market, which I'm particularly close to, like whenever you can buy a property and sell it for 50% gain before you even get the property is not a normal market.
Yeah.
I think we've seen this before. Like Vietnam was like that. I think places in Thailand or Phuket at some point. Anyhow, but they had the ability to. So it was a good story. But I'm working on a deal, a private credit deal in Dubai, and great people, great asset. And because of this, they had to pause because of logistical issues. But they even said, like, hey, listen, when this comes back, I don't know if this is a good business opportunity now. I think Dubai will still be the same in terms of it'll be a place where people go and not pay tax and have a good life and this and this and that. But for sure, when people, there's two parts of wealth. There's custody and making money. Custody is where the money physically is. So a lot of Hong Kong's custody business moved here, right? But that is no longer safe. So I suspect a lot will go back to Singapore and Hong Kong. I feel bad, right? Dubai, spent all this time creating this business. It'll get back to something, but it won't be like it was before.
It's because this extra added value that was created because of the belief of so many people into Dubai and the safety of Dubai. Before it was extraordinary, this added value, like in property market. And now it will be like more normal, yeah?
Yeah, you kind of, when you make a decision in life, you add a risk premium, right? And what that means is if I go eat seafood out in a sketchy place, the risk premium is it'll be good, but I could get sick, right? The risk premium of buying a home in Bali 10 years ago is like, God, you don't know, but it turns out to be a good investment, right? Or Phuket. And Dubai, we've been in the longest period of society where there's no war. And everything went up, interest rates were low, asset prices went up. And Dubai ticked all the boxes, especially during COVID. They're like, come here during COVID. And they're super smart policymakers. They took advantage of the environment that we are in. The environment is people that don't need to go to the office. Crypto is big. Banking regulations are light. So I remember I wrote a report maybe 20 years ago about how China merchants built a port in Sri Lanka, and what they did was they took care of the Tamil Tiger. So Sri Lanka had this infighting with the indigenous people in the north, and they built it so they can build a port to be around the Strait of Hormuz. So you kind of forget, like you don't really look at maps that often.
Yes.
And then now we've been looking at the Strait of Hormuz every 5 minutes for the last 2 weeks, and you look at it, you're like, wow, that's really close to Iran, right?
Yes.
I'm an optimist. I think like let's get this over with soon. But it's not.
Who do you think will be the biggest winners, the beneficiaries of this conflict? You said probably business go back to Singapore and Hong Kong, and who will suffer the most, especially in this part of the world?
I think Southeast Asia will suffer because they're net importers of oil.
Yes. Like right now, it's already shortage. In
Yeah,
Thailand, in
yeah.
Sri Lanka.
I think everybody suffers. Nobody benefits. I think the bet is that long term, the geopolitical risk that is attached to that part of the world goes down. But I'm not necessarily sure, right? But I think net importers of oil and any country that relies on trade, right, is a problem. You look at Korea, right? Korea Airlines, they're not a company that makes money on people flying on their airlines. They're a company that makes money on cargo shipments of mainly technology things. And the stock exchange is the biggest hit. And at the end of the day, you think about this. Sorry, the US dollar has gotten stronger, but you have to think about, like, when you go to the grocery store, or like as a society, what's important to you is buying groceries, living, and buying necessities. And a country's savings are US treasuries, or US things. So when I need to buy oil, because without oil I can't survive, because oil is used to create food and all types of things you need to buy every day, toilet paper and tissue and stuff like that, toothpaste. So people have to sell something that's priced in US dollars to buy basic things. And so I think that is going to affect the US. I think this is not good for anybody. I don't think this is good. Even it's bad for Europe. It's bad for, it's good for some oil companies, right? It's good for defense companies. It's good for gold. I'm not sure it's good for Bitcoin, but it's not good for anybody because it's the element of volatility and risk gets priced into all of our discussions. Even me as a household, I'm sitting at dinner explaining what's happening to my kids. I'm like, hey, this is happening, so we have to be more cautious on things, right? And I'm having that at like a family level.
What do you think, like being American but living in these parts of the world, living in Asia, how you see how it will affect the US because of the war with Iran?
I think there's so many things in the US that are more important, like the debt's too high, AI is killing employment, all these type of things. The last thing you need is to spend $1 billion on this.
Yeah.
Now, I can also see why they need to do this, but I don't see why they need to do this right now. I don't think the American people, well, actually it's factual. If you look at the polls, like, people don't like this, right? It's not, it's regime change has never been successful there. So do I think it's a forever war like, Afghanistan? Probably not. But on the flip side, we've never been able to see a regime change, right? So I think what will happen the regime will be decimated, but it will be a failed state, which is even worse. Because then now the opposition party are angry at you. The incumbents are angry. The opposition are angry because you've left us for a place where we can't prosper. Even if we wanted to prosper, we can't. And that's even worse. I think it sucks. When submarines get involved, this stuff is not good. I think generally people don't like this. There are probably a small group of people that think that this needs to get done, but nothing about this is good. Nothing about this is good, and nothing about how they present it in media is good.
Some people think that China will benefit from it. Do you think it's true or not?
I think short term, maybe, but long term, this affects supply chains, oil, food, and stuff like that. I think it doesn't benefit anybody. I think it benefits China to the extent that they kind of stay out of this in an obvious way, but for sure they're involved. Like everybody's involved. Russia, China, you name it. They're doing something to help or disrupt or whatever benefits them. But this doesn't. They've spent hundreds of billions of dollars building up oil infrastructure in Iran because that's how they get their oil. Like, this is disrupted, it's not good. And we all, I don't want to make this a geopolitical conversation, but we all know that in all of this stuff, there is these two guys that are trying to jockey. But give you an example, like the US does not have enough energy and resource to build data centers. So where do they have to build them? In the Middle East. You start blowing those up, then you lose the AI war to China. So that benefits China. China doesn't get oil, they can't do other businesses. So there's two guys trying to kind of jockey each other. And in all fairness, I kind of blame the US because they were driven by greed and China was the recipient of this opportunity. Oh, you want me to make all the stuff in the world for you? Awesome. Right? They don't have enough rare earths, let's just say magnets, that go into the missiles. And so all this stuff plays into it, right? So I think China looks like it could benefit, right? In the bigger, the AI race and things like that, but short term nobody wins. Supply chain disruption doesn't help anybody.
Okay guys, I'm doing something completely new. I'm running a closed session on how high-level operators are repositioning right now. Over the past few months, I've been sitting down with billionaires like Bill Heineke from Anantara, or like investors like Ho Kwon Ping from Banyan Tree, or like really unconventional thinkers like Didi, a crypto guy from Phuket. And I found one very similar pattern. It's how they are quietly repositioning across three areas: where they live, how they make money and allocate money, and how they prepare themselves, their families and their kids for what's coming. I actually just came from the Backstage Circle weekend in Phuket, where I brought 12 founders and investors. And after just this one weekend and the meeting we met Mohan Morjani, a billionaire, a co-founder of Atomic Figure. So after this weekend and few meetings that we had in Phuket, they are already revising their long-term strategies. So in this closed session, which is coming, I'll break down several things. What is actually changing right now? And it's not in the news. You will not see it in the public. The way people make money in the new reality. How high-level people are adjusting right now across geography, capital, and long-term game. And actually how they think, the mental models they apply making decisions. This session is not for everyone. If you're optimizing for comfort, it's probably not for you. But if you want to understand how people with real leverage think and make decisions, then welcome to join. The data centers issue is huge, right?
Huge.
If they affect it in the Middle East, American data centers, it's like 100%. The base for
we've all gone to Anthropic or ChatGPT and like, oh, you've run out of tokens. I'm like, you buy and you gotta wait till 3 p.m. the next day for it to re-engage. Part of that is this.
Yeah. That is huge, yeah. Interesting. I talked to some Singaporean guy, he actually joining my Phuket trip, the Backstage Circle. I talked to him last week. He came from the Middle East and we were discussing he lived in Beijing and Shanghai for 10 years. I asked him whoa, as a Singaporean, what do you think about the whole situation and the China involvement? And he said now it seems like China is the only adult in the room. So everybody else is going crazy and China is playing an adult role.
I think they're involved. They're just not.
No, they're not on the surface for sure.
100%.
Yeah.
I think at the end of the day, people want to prosper.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, we all want the same thing. We want to prosper. We want a harmonious society. Everybody wants to be the boss, but we all know that we all can't be the boss, right? One country makes things, one country buys things. And I think hopefully, fingers crossed, there's some grand agreement that says, hey, listen, don't talk about Taiwan, we'll let you do this. Okay, you let us do this, set us this, we won't do this. Hopefully that, I'm a big believer that, what we see on the news is probably 10% of what's happening, behind the scenes.
Yeah.
So not good, dude. Not good. Not good. It's a lot more serious. It's kind of like Iran. It's like, if I met you in a bar and I'm like a tipsy, I hit your shoulder, or you're looking at my girlfriend, I'm gonna fight you, not these guys. I'm gonna like try to punch everybody in the bar, right, and piss everybody off. It's not a good outcome.
What else do you think? Like, there are a lot of streams are going under the surface. What else do you think is happening? What people don't see on the surface?
One thing I need to clarify that a lot of people don't understand: the U.S. as a reserve currency and a reserve asset. Okay, so the U.S. is never before I die, right? Which, who knows? It will still be a reserve currency. The world is too many things plugged in, software things, to not use U.S. dollar. Now, is it a reserve asset? I think that's going away, and I think the U.S. knows it, and they think maybe they want it to too. I'm kind of digressing a little bit. I'm just going to make some numbers up. China makes things 90% cheaper than the U.S. and much better. The U.S. wants to bring manufacturing back to the U.S., and they should. Like, you can't rely on one country to make everything in your country. So I get all that. So how do you make something 90% cheaper? You either devalue your currency 90%, or you make things 90% better. Now, you can't make things 90% better than China because they're already like the best, right?
Yeah.
So I believe the outcome is a little bit of making it better through AI, certain aspects of it, but also, it's through AI, but also devaluing it, the currency by 90%, somewhere in the middle. So if you can have a robot making you a car, like a Tesla robot making a car, then you don't need a human, like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I think what's happening behind the scenes is this dynamic of, everything that we've done in our lives. We've bought a car, a Rolex, Apple Watch or Apple. It's all based, really, if you think about it, off a US dollar system. If you change your mindset and think about everything in terms of gold, and go online, go to tradingview.com and go, the price of this over gold, it looks very different. And I think that is what's happening, is like the world is, that's why I'm quite like gold, is because the world is gonna start being based off gold. And it'll still transact in US dollars, but the denominator of everything we do is gonna be on gold. And I think that's the only release valve of how the US and the world kind of moves into a more harmonious society, because the world cannot have the US default on debt. It won't. It'll just keep printing money. But printing money isn't good as well. So I actually think second half of this year, we are going to be in a world where there's going to be money printing. There has to be. Because one thing, I don't know, I'm kind of going off on a tangent, but I think strongly, and I haven't been disproven, is that governments, especially the US, cannot take pain. They just can't take pain. It's not like policymakers of the past where they go and they say, hey guys, we're going to have to suffer for a year. I'm going to jack rates up to 20% because I have to find. People don't do that anymore. So that's kind of a long way of saying, at the end of the day, countries are trying to figure out how to solidify what they need as a country. And it's very different. The Singapore is very different. They need food supplies, things like that. The US they need everybody to use US dollars, but they don't need everybody to use US dollars as a reserve asset. So US treasuries are no longer what people need to buy, but they need to buy US treasuries because they've got all this debt they need to refinance. So this is this weird, I'll give you an example. So, when I look at, like, investing is like buying a boat in the ocean. The fastest boat is a super light carbon fiber speedboat. And if the ocean is flat, you're the fastest boat in the ocean. Then you've got the tankers and the cruise ships and the da-da-da-da-da. If the ocean is going with you, the ocean is going against you, you literally are the slowest in the ocean because you're light and you're built for speed. And right now, Bitcoin is going against the ocean, and the ocean is the monetary system in the US, right? And that's kind of what we saw end of last year. I think things are kind of changing a little bit right now, recently, but that's kind of how I look at things. Like if the ocean isn't in your favor, then you got to buy the big boat, which is gold, right?
Yeah.
If ocean is in your favor, then you buy the fastest thing in the ocean, which is tech stocks and Bitcoin.
Did I get you right that you think the value of dollar will decrease because it's no other way?
I think it is the release valve of where the world is going. I think the U.S. wants the weak dollar, but I think in 5 years, I think the dollar will go down and gold will go up a lot.
What about crypto and Bitcoin?
For a long time, I've been buying. So I have some for myself, but I've been buying for my kids every Friday at 12 p.m.
Okay.
So for a few years, so I don't really think about it, buy a little bit. But last December was the first time I felt a little uneasy because the ocean was not working properly. One, and this is a little bit about what I do, but if you look at the way the Treasury auction was operating, they were clearly trying to manipulate how it was operating. Then you've also got Japan. In Japan, you've got a world where interest rates are going up, but the currency is going down, which is it's not a developed country outcome. And so all this stuff, which is the ocean investing, made me feel like really uneasy. And also, we were doing some private credit advisory on a data center in Asia, and I was like, man, these guys need a lot of money, And I'm not even working on like Air Trunk or like these big ones, just like some Southeast Asian data center. And I'm thinking to myself, wow, I don't know if this is sustainable, right? That led me just to think that things are just a little, I like gold. Bitcoin is something to own when the ocean is calm or moving in your favor. But I am a believer, for sure. But I do think, I guess kind of we could conclude a little bit. One of the biggest mistakes with people when they invest is they buy it for one thing and they sell it for another. It's like going to eat at a restaurant. Hey, honey, we're going to go to this restaurant. It has the cheapest steaks in Singapore. So the reasoning you went to the restaurant because it was cheap. Mm-hmm. When you eat the steak, you complain that it's shit. But you didn't go there for the good steak. You went there because it was cheap. The reason why people have bought gold has been different. They bought it for a store of wealth. It's got a good diversification. Then it was a hedge against inflation during COVID. And then it was a way to inflation and debasement. But now it's something else. It is the world is going to the gold standard in some way, shape, or form, period. And now it's almost like a different thing where the US needs the gold to go up because it needs the dollar to go down, because they need to revalue their gold holdings up so they can find a financial engineering way to pay down the debt. The easiest way to pay down the debt is to devalue the debt, basically, right? And that's kind of how I look at it. So I do think, I think in 3 years' time, gold will be twice at least as much. And I think the dollar will be 30 to 50% lower. I mean, that's tough to say, but I think you look at last year, you look at JP Morgan, MUFG, blah, 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 blah. They all think the dollar before this Middle East stuff was going to be down 5% this year. And they are always conservative. Because you can't be JP Morgan saying, hey, it's going to be down 20%. I mean, the analysts will get fired, right? So if a big bank says 5, it's probably 10.
There is a censorship on YouTube, so I cannot share all my raw opinions and thoughts and insights from meeting billionaires and like high-level operators here on YouTube. But I can do it on Telegram. So if you want to see the backstage from my interviews and very fresh, raw opinions after most incredible people I meet and how I run this YouTube business, join the Telegram channel. QR code on the screen or link below.
This AI stuff is really, really, really fucking scary. Last time I spoke to you, I've been reading the white papers of Anthropic for the last 3 years. And I wasn't really using ChatGPT and stuff, but I knew this is interesting. I mean, it's kind of interesting anyway. And last year was it was people researching, but now with these AI agents, you're really, really moving into an agentic world. I bought a Mac Mini 3 months ago, trying to download OpenClaw. I couldn't do it because I'm not a tech guy. I was like fumbling and da da da. It's only a matter of time where you'll have one Mac AI agent for every employee. It's only a matter of time because they'll make the interface easier. Right now, it's you kind of know you need to know a little bit of coding and Python and things like that, which I don't know. But I only use Claude now, and I'm trying to get familiar with Claude Cowork. There's got Claude Code. You can develop apps. Like this stuff is, and the point I'm trying to make is that we're a small company, and I'm going through the process of thinking, actually, we don't need this person. We don't need that person. I took my audited financial statements, I put them on Claude, and I said, do this, and then break it down by months and input, output, create ratios, cost of goods sold, boom. Literally like 3 minutes, done. I'm like, that would have taken 6 months, or 3 months with my financial controller team. She's gonna get upset at me. But it's crazy. And I think I spoke to you before offline.
No.
I spoke to my team. I said, listen, there are two outcomes here. It's either our labor costs are X. If you use AI, we can keep the same labor costs, but our productivity goes up 10 times. Or I can fire all of you and hire one guy to use AI and create the same productivity. Obviously, what I want is everybody to use AI so they can increase their productivity. And if I'm doing that, everybody's doing that. You know, you see these companies, Amazon and Meta, they're laying off people. These are the most profitable, highest operating margin companies on the planet, and they're laying off people. What do you think about the average people? The people with like the law offices. If you look at last week, there was a 92,000 drop in employment in the US. And if you go through the numbers, it is exactly what you would think. Financial services, healthcare services is the largest employer in 38 states in the US. These are people booking appointments for their doctor.
Yeah, they'll be gone. They'll be gone.
Like, I mean, it's interesting. I somewhat believe that we are going to be in a world of abundance. I think we spoke about this before, but in the interim, it'll be some version of universal basic income, but then it'll be a world of abundance. I don't know what that looks like, but it'll be like, you're going to have, you know, Singapore does this a little bit in a very, very minuscule way. They're like, you can buy a HDB, we'll give you some subsidies every so often, some checks and coupons and stuff. Yeah, man, super exciting, but scary.
I watched the interview with this guy, Mark Andreessen.
Yep.
He's a big VC guy and entrepreneur in the Valley. And what he said is, like, America was driving, after the Second World War, was driving by the constant increasing of productivity. And then it kind of started like slowing down in the 90s and in 2000s. And then if AI never arrived, it would actually like sink pretty much in long run, sink the economy.
Yep.
But because AI arrived, he said like there are different scenarios. Like the positive scenario is the productivity will increase heavily because of the AI, which will potentially, if it's like a super positive scenario, will lead to the full abundance for everybody.
100%.
It's one of the scenarios.
I agree.
Yeah.
Well, the trouble with that is that so going back, so what happened was after war, so the definition of baby boomers is basically all these people went to the war, they came back and they all had babies, and all these babies came into the workforce at the same time. They all had to buy a tie and buy shoes and go interview. That big movement of consumption drove up inflation in the 70s. And that's when Volcker came in for that reason. And that was the biggest besides the Industrial Revolution, they came into the workforce, tons of productivity, they're financializing the markets, all this stuff was happening. This was during the Reagan days.
Yeah.
You know, the world has just basically since then kind of gone this way, right? And so the productivity gains are really, really incredible. Like, I mean, there's not going to be a human farmer in 3 years, 100%. There's not going to be a human receptionist at a hotel in 5 years. The trouble is a human needs to have a place in society. Like, it's not about money, right? what's happening right now in society is not about money, it's that they don't know where they belong. Like, I'll give you an example. When Bongbong Marcos ran for election in the Philippines, my helper voted for him, a lot of people voted for him. And you're like, why would you do that? His father, dictator, da 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 da. And you realize that they knew their place in society then. I mean, even though it was horrible crimes and all this other stuff. And right now people don't, they got some dude, Elon Musk, sending rockets to the world, rockets to the wherever, and he's worth $1 trillion. Like, something's not working, so they don't feel there's a place in society. So my point I'm trying to make is, before we get into the Mark Andreessen world, which I kind of believe, there is an adjustment to make. And I don't know, that is going to be a rough adjustment because people are not ready for that. And I think what inevitably will happen, the biggest adjustment is like in the 70s, it was the rise of white collar and the slow grind, the slow downward spiral of blue collar. Because Japan was making cars. Remember the movie Gung Ho? Is it Gung Ho? Like Michael Keaton, right? It was about Toyota, da da da. And then China entered the WTO in 2001, and then literally all manufacturing disappeared. Now it's reverse. It's white collar jobs are going down and blue collar jobs are back. But there's not enough jobs. So what are people going to do? So, I think unionized workers, people who work at ports, who have a guaranteed salary of, whatever, $150,000 a year, like, dude, a robot's going to do that, right?
But do you think the first jobs to be eliminated will be white-collar jobs, and then blue-collar jobs follow?
100%. 100%. Because I'm doing work now, and I'm thinking, this is the first 3 years of my life as an investment banker. Like, you have no job, right? This human-to-human stuff, sales, like, it happens so fast. I have a 15-year-old, I went from you gotta study math to, so you can be a coder, to like, I'm not gonna, of course I'm gonna pay it, but you're gonna go to college to get an English literature major, really I'm gonna pay that much money? And now I'm actually, and this conversation's happened in like 3 years.
Yes.
Now, yesterday at the dinner table, I'm like, he's thinking about what classes to take, and I'm thinking, well, you should really think about humanities, learn the classics, think about Greek, read the classics, think about the history of the Roman Empire. Completely different from what I said 3 years ago. Because now it's about, you really need to understand human psychology, because the world is not working at Meta for 30 years, or Google, or Goldman Sachs, or GIC, or whatever it is. People are going to be entrepreneurs. And so you need to be able to feel the vibe of human society. You need to, that's what influencers are, because they get what people want and like, and they deliver that content. And, it's not, if not already now, you can be a unicorn with one dude, if you're like savvy with that kind of stuff, right? So can you imagine as a parent, you're like, study, you gotta do your math and physics, and then 2 years later, like, don't do that. You gotta, be a psychology major,
Yeah. I mean, it's a big question. Like, my kids is a bit younger. The older one, she'll be 9, and the younger one will be 3. But I had a very interesting discussion with the guy recently in Phuket. His name is Didi. So he's the Bitcoin guy. He bought a lot of Bitcoins like 12 years ago. And it was a big news because they sold everything. They are from Netherlands, Dutch family, 3 kids. They sold everything and then they believed in Bitcoin. So he's very active now. He's making money on trading stuff. He's one of the big voices in crypto community. And he started homeschooling his kids like long time ago, like 7-8 years ago. But he's very extreme. So anti-dollar, only Bitcoin, anti-schooling. He's detaching himself from the global economy. Fun guy, but he provokes a lot of thoughts.
Yeah.
So I'm not that extreme in terms of the schooling, but now I start thinking, what's the point? I pay a lot of money for school. It's a good school. It's an IB education. But then, okay, for my 9-year-old, maybe a few more years is fine. But for my 3-year-old, it's fucking You don't know nothing about what's going on.
So I think about this a lot. So I can tell you, we went to school. So we went to school because one, our parents worked hard, so they wanted us to kind of move up in the demographic ladder. Okay.
Yeah.
But education was a means to get a job, to earn income. So imagine a world where, what if I said the concept of income is not the same? It is, right? Like how we earn money, why we earn money is going to be different. 100%, I guarantee you, especially your youngest, but probably my children, you don't need to go to university to earn income. Unless you want to be an engineer, a doctor, or whatever. But even then,
engineering questionable.
Yeah, all this is questionable, right?
Yeah.
Unless you want to be a plumber, right?
Yeah, true.
Right? Now, so as parents out in your audience who have saved money their life so they can send their kids to university, so they can get a good job and earn income, that's not the mindset. And I don't want to be alarmist, but this stuff is happening fast, right? So now the mentality is, I'm going to put a portion of my income away. When you're ready to go to college, that income is not, that money I'm going to give you to go to university is not for you to make money. That is for you to build a network, meet like-minded people.
Have fun.
Have fun. For 4 years. But that becomes the top 50 schools. Or what's the point? And that, because you still have to believe that going to Harvard has network value. I don't know. It may not be in 20 years. But if you are going there to earn money, to college to earn money, that's not correct. So it's basically, I'm going to save this money, going to spend it so you can be a better human being. But it's not about learning accounting so you can come out and work as an accountant. Because you're not going to be able to get a job. The job of accountancy is not going to be around. 100%.
Yeah.
Sorry, potential CPA people. An accountant, accountancy is a governing body. It's basically somebody that says, I've looked at your stuff, I'm going to put a stamp on it because I'm going to school and I can be, say, a CPA signed off.
Yes.
That's all it is.
Yes.
But imagine like all your incoming in the bank goes on the blockchain, comes out every month, verified by AI, like, and then auto pays payroll. Like, you 100% don't need an account. Sorry, Rena. It's really the world that we're living in. It's happening fast.
Remember a few years ago when AI felt like the far future, and now it's everywhere. I use it every day, sometimes without even thinking about it. Recently I tried Kimi, an AI model from the Chinese lab Moonshot AI, which kindly supports today's video. For example, when I was preparing for my interviews in China, instead of digging through endless websites, I just turned on agent mode and asked Kimi what interests people most about life in China. And it came back with a really well-structured file packed with spreadsheets, references, numbers and key insights that helped me understand the topic more deeply. If you're doing business with China or often traveling there, it's very helpful to have a kind of personal assistant that understands Chinese language sources and local context. According to the lab team, the latest model, Kimi K2.5, has outperformed OpenAI and Anthropic models on some benchmarks. I can't really judge all the technical details, but from a user's point of view, the experience was very smooth. And with all of that, Kimi is still cheaper than most alternatives. You can try it yourself through the link in description and get your first month for just 99 cents. I hope you will enjoy it. What I recently did with my daughter, with my 8.5-year-old one, we start vibe coding. So we basically...
Amazing.
We used Lovable. Now I also try like my own stuff with Manos AI. It's crazy. So for the Backstage Circle, I'm now making a website by myself. I don't want to delegate it. ChatGPT Pro version plus Manos. Design, all the copywriting, all the strategy behind through this, and it's fast, like a couple of days and it's done. With my daughter, what we've done, we just start like I want her to be hands-on with this thing and try to do it. So my idea is when she will be maybe 10, 11, we create something like valuable information that can be sold for 20 bucks. It can be a website plus PDF plus something like this. And then we can create an Instagram account because I'm on social media and kind of know how it works. And then we can create all the strategy using like ChatGPT or Claude and the copywriting and basically all the visuals, all the videos for Instagram Reels. So basically we can feed Instagram with this, create an account, create traffic, and then feed with this traffic, feed this project, like to sell like PDFs or something for $20. And she can make maybe $300. To feel like as an 11-year-old, 10 to 11-year-old, that she's making, she can make $300 after like few days spending with vibe coding.
They have to be able to actually feel the money earned.
Yes.
Like they go through that whole process.
Yeah.
You know, that's important. Amazing.
What else do you like? You talk to your kids, you talk to your family, like about your mindset, your approach to the future education, like the college, for example.
It's
what else do you?
We don't have those conversations. We obviously talk about the school and what they're studying and gossip amongst friends and how we resolve those personal, like maybe with my daughter, I have a younger daughter, so a lot of what we talk to her about is how to deal with person-to-person situations. With my son, it's about dude stuff, like, hey, you should take this, you take this.
Yeah.
You're playing basketball, how's your friend? Playing video games. I don't know if it's conducive to kind of talk about where the future will be, because you don't want to be alarmist. We're still saying you should study hard and go to college. We're not saying, dude, go make some money because you're not going to have a job anyway. But in my mind, honestly, I think that is the world it's going to be in, right? So they're going to go to college, they're going to meet some cool people, and they're going to, the bet is there's going to be so much abundant technology that if you have an interesting idea, you're going to be able to succeed. And it's easy to succeed. It's actually not difficult to make money if you have financial flexibility to do cool things. I mean, you're a successful YouTuber, like I would imagine you're like the top 1% of whatever the categories are, right? But that was because you were a flexible thinker and you had a little bit of financial flexibility to kind of try new things. And that's what the world needs. I love watching podcasts. I get so much information because there's some that it's obvious people pay them, but it doesn't affect the content. They'll stop and say, hey, I'm sponsored by, NordVPN, with somebody but the content isn't perverse by the beliefs, like Joe Rogan, right? Or Tim Ferriss or all that. It's interesting, like, do people even watch the news anymore on TV? Yeah, but it'll be something else,
Yeah.
Like, for example, I have a trade on personally, but, I actually, I really believe in hardware, and I'm very bearish on software, right? Because just we can mark the day today, right? But I can guarantee you in 5 years or 5 years, do you think Netflix is going to be around? It'll be all on ChatGPT platform. It'll be all on Claude's platform. You think Spotify will be around? No way. It'll be Claude music. It'll be open AI music, for sure. Anything, that type of stuff, the only thing that's going to be around are infrastructure, like the stuff that makes this work. Any software, not going to be around. YouTube, it'll be part of Google, which it is, right? Is it?
Yeah, and Google is one of the big players in AI, so.
For sure.
Hopefully YouTube will stay for a few years.
No, for sure. My point being is, it'll emerge into different things.
Yeah.
Like any software is.
Yeah.
For sure, Spotify's not going to be. I'm saying this now. Do you think it'll be around in 5 years? It will be bought by a bigger platform because they'll need. You can kind of see it now, right, happening slowly.
I think what's hard to grasp, or what's hard to digest, is not the progress itself, but the speed, the dynamic of this speed
100%.
increasing.
It is people. I tell you,
and it's hard to, like, as a human being. It's like we understand. Okay, the car is going like 100. The maximum, the speed record like 100 years ago was like 100 or 200 kilometers per hour, and then maybe in 30 years it became like 250. But for AI, it's like 200, and then 2,000, and then 20,000.
It is.
And that's hard to grasp, like, psychologically.
Because, I think I just put myself, talk about my experience. I think it's difficult to, from a business standpoint, it's really difficult to fire people. Right? Because one, I mean, there's a feel bad element to it. Number two, you end up in this world where I've got to do extra work to kind of replace that productivity, and it's risky, right? Because you're kind of used to the status quo, maybe you're not. There will be a point in a company's journey where they can't pay this person X for doing social media content. Like, there will be that time, and then there will be a time where I can't pay for an accountant. There's going to be a time where I don't need this, or I don't need this, and that is prolonged because it's hard to fire people. Like, there's emotional attachment, and you feel bad, but as a company, there will be a point where I really doesn't make any sense to pay you $10,000 a month to do this.
Yeah.
And that, the point I'm trying to make is, imagine me times 1 trillion, and what will happen is it'll all happen at the same time. And I think Singapore knows that. They're implementing all these AIs, learn AI, you get some subsidies and things like that. But it is happening, it's happening fast. I think with technology, even in, if you look at trading, right? Technology has created, in equities, the reason why people go to school, myself included, you go to be an investor, you go be like Warren Buffett, you go meet a company, do they have good earnings, they have a good product, That was called price discovery. But now the world is run by machines where even if you find a good company, it may not trade up because you've got these machines affecting the way it trades and things like that. Things like people like Citadel are making so much money off of managing the flow. The point I'm trying to make is, with technology, the amplitude of consumer preferences are higher. So historically it was like this, and now it's like squeezed. So it'll be like the world loves Labubus, but then it'll be like 6 months. The world loves this. Before, people would, like something, but be longer because you don't have technology and social media stuff. So like this tech stuff, like you say, like I don't think people, like you use ChatGPT, I like Anthropic, but every week there's something coming out where it's only a matter of time where they just make it easier for you. Like, Apple just released their new suite of products. I mean, the MX Pro chip basically can run inference models on their gadgets. Like, you don't need NVIDIA servers anymore. You just run your own little AI thing on your bloody laptop with you're basically your own local LLM. I mean, I think it's really exciting, but scary.
Yeah, I think consulting business and expert business, it will be really suffering. So I think the value in consulting business will stay in a relationship with clients. That will be the most value. Like when I was planning the Backstage Circle that I mentioned. So I spent a few days with ChatGPT, actually going back and forth. And before, if I did the same project like 2 years ago, what I would do, when I go to the marketing part, I was like, okay, who can I call? Who is the marketing guru for me among my friends? Who can I call and spend like a couple of hours just masterminding, asking questions? Then for sales, the same, for how to form a team. Now I don't need to call anyone. So all the expertise from my social circle, it kind of I don't use it anymore.
I think there will be the role of the sales manager to manage the account, but all that execution stuff, yeah, I think congrats on your event as well. I'm super excited for you, as I've said.
Thanks to you. You're one of the first person I shared this idea a few months back, and you gave me a lot of advice and inspiration. Actually,
you made it happen. Yeah. I always admire people. I wish I was more like this. I try to, that just make things happen. They just don't, God, I had that idea 5 years ago. Well, go do it, dude. Right?
Yeah, it's the big idea behind is, I think the new luxury, as I mentioned already, the new luxury will be in-person meetings, because it will be some kind of abundance, especially online abundance. and then really to meet someone backstage, like in a chilling somewhere, like talking about philosophy, life, kids, stuff, it will be the new luxury.
I don't know if you remember this. I think our first interview, I was in Malaysia, and I think we've all gone through this. You go to the airport and everybody's like da 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 da, and you realize that, and then it's like the Hunger Games. Like you've got the people up there eating the grapes and having a great time, and you've got the people down here that are just like in their phone like little robots. And you realize the luxury of those guys are the ability to kind of just talk. The whole world will be people with ADHD that can't carry out a conversation.
Yeah.
Right? And to your point, that is the new luxury, just to be able to talk and experience a human connection.
Yeah. I think I'm a big believer that all the most like high level important decisions are actually done backstage. It's funny for me, like the guy who doing a lot of YouTube videos, but okay, people say some stuff on YouTube, like in public, but then the real stuff, especially if you like get together with like high-level people, what we do at the Backstage Circle thing in Phuket, when people get together and they really trust each other. I think trust, it will be also the new currency. So you physically in one place, and then you trust each other, and then you can share something that you would not share publicly. And so the real value is already creating in these kind of situations.
Yeah, totally agree. Like it's human connectivity is going to be a scary. I mean, that's something that makes me sad, actually.
Yeah.
Right. But that is going to be what people value.
Yeah.
Even now, I mean, I guess it's a little bit of. I know my kids are getting older, but it's almost like I hug them more now than I used to. Because that means something.
Yeah.
I see you, I give everybody hugs now, like, because I like hugging, but you never know, you may not be able to, that's a vibe that you get that, we're not going to get that often.
So closing the circle with what we just said. So we're doing this event in Phuket actually this weekend. After this video will be published, it's passed already. But we're doing kind of similar thing in the beginning of June. So we will leave a link and a QR code on the screen so you guys can check it out. What about geographical safety? It's like what parts of the world you think will be like progressing in like 5 years? Are we safe in Singapore? Shall we all move to
100%.
Thailand, to Phuket?
100%. I think it's all safe here. Singapore especially. I'm not saying that because I want my EP, my PR. My wife's Singaporean, but I think the Singapore is run by pragmatic civil servants, right? They think generationally. I'm on the Straits Times Instagram page, and they're like, we're going to implement something to lower the time at red lights.
Yeah.
It's too hot.
I saw it.
And I'm like only Singapore can think of this. It's effing amazing, right? And it's true. Like we're sitting there like, man, it's really hot. Then you get to the next meeting, you're full of sweat. I'm like, oh, that actually is pragmatic, right?
Yeah. Okay, Singapore, we are both here, so hopefully Singapore will be fine.
I think Hong Kong's making a big comeback.
That's what people are saying.
Yeah,
That's what people
really
are saying at the moment.
The restaurants are full, people are buying property again, there's a feel-good factor. And I think we had this conversation over the years. I think I always argued, I'm from Hong Kong, is that...
You were born in Hong Kong?
I was born here, but my family's from Hong Kong.
Yeah.
Is that Hong Kong is a mercantilist DNA. Like they make money,
yes.
Right? And they've always had to hustle for money. So there's a lot of stuff that's happened with, I also said, like, Hong Kong, like imagine any business that has one customer is not a good business. We all can agree on that. Hong Kong had one customer. And that customer slowed, Hong Kong suffered. So now they had to reinvent itself. And I think they're comfortable, it's like a relationship. I'm comfortable with my role in the relationship, and China's comfortable with their role in the relationship, and now we can prosper. And I think that's happening now. I think a lot of the Dubai population, I think will start moving to Hong Kong. It's a great place to make money, it's energetic, but yeah, Hong Kong is back. And I think there'll be other countries that offer, why can't Malaysia say, okay, we're going to create tax-free, digital nomad, immigration. Why wouldn't Thailand do it? Why wouldn't Indonesia do it? Of course I'm sure they will all do it.
Malaysia can actually benefit from the whole situation because they have oil.
Yeah, and Malaysia will benefit.
Yeah.
Malaysia's a really hot market now because it's been able to shed that 1 MDB overlay that took all the foreign investors out, and now they're coming back in because it's actually a great country. They're not resource rich, a good working population, well educated. I'm there a lot. Like, it's a great market. I mean, there's some idiosyncrasies that are Malaysian specific, but I'm a big fan.
Personally, what decisions are you making now? Like, we talked about money and dollar and Bitcoin and gold. Personally, what decisions are you making now in terms of money and investments?
Yeah, so I'm just trying to hold on a lot of cash. I've been I bought some gold. I bought some oil, but I try not to buy that stuff because I'm not really good at trading that kind of stuff. I bought some gold since the Middle East, but I've been buying T-bills, which is basically the short end of the yield curve. So I believe that the yield curve is going to do this, right? Because people are going to want the safety of this. The prices are going to go up, yields are going to go down. But I think the 10 to 30 year yields kind of go up. And so what I do think, I'm just waiting where the US has to print money. I'm just waiting for that. That's my big bet. Once they start printing money, I think around June, hopefully, or July, you never know. I think that's when everything will go up. So I'm waiting for sort of the breaking point at the 10-year treasuries. And I think if anybody wants to, this is my view, if the 10-year treasuries hits 4.5, that's the pressure point for the US, and then they'll start printing, and that's everything goes up.
Okay, so I guess I see you in a year.
Yeah.
It will be a lot of new stuff to talk about.
Yeah. Congratulations on your project in Phuket.
Oh, thanks so much.
Really super proud and super happy for you. Be a big success.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for helping me.
All right, cool. All right, buddy. Take care.
Cool.